Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we are diving into a report from FirstEnergy, and let me tell you, it's electrifying. Just kidding. Utilities are rarely that exciting, but we'll see if we can dig up some interesting news anyway. In this report, FirstEnergy is announcing plans to sell a whole bunch of convertible notes. This is basically like taking out a loan that can be paid back with stock later. It's a way for companies to raise money, but it can also mean some interesting things about their future plans and how they see their stock price going. Roughly before we start, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below. Alright, this report, a Form 8K, is dated June 9, 2025. This is a current report, meaning it's filed to announce something important that's just happened. The big news here is that FirstEnergy plans to offer $950 million of convertible senior notes due in 2029 and another $80 million of convertible senior notes due in 2031. These notes will be sold in a private placement, meaning they're not being offered to the general public, but to specific qualified institutional buyers. In simple terms, these are big investment firms that are allowed to buy these kinds of securities. There's also an option for the initial purchasers to buy even more notes, up to an additional $150 million for each set of notes. This gives them some flexibility if there's high demand. Now let's jump to the exhibits. Exhibit 99.1 is a press release about this announcement, and Exhibit 104 is just the cover page data file, nothing too exciting there. Before we go any further, it's important to note the forward-looking statements disclaimer. This is basically FirstEnergy saying, hey, we're making some predictions about the future, but things could change. They're covering themselves in case things don't go as planned. The company is flagging that what they think will happen might not, so don't base any important decisions just on what they've written. They use words like anticipate, expect, and believe, but they also warn that actual results could differ. They specifically mentioned that the pricing and closing of the convertible notes offering are subject to change, and the use of the proceeds could also vary. This is all dependent on market conditions and other factors. FirstEnergy points out that there are risks involved, and they refer you to their other filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission, like their annual report and quarterly reports, for more details on those risks. Now let's take a step back and think about what all of this means. Why is FirstEnergy issuing these convertible notes? Well, it's a way for them to raise a significant amount of money. Companies often use this kind of funding for various purposes like investing in new projects, paying down debt, or even acquisitions. However, convertible notes also add some complexity because they can be converted into stock. If the notes are converted into stock, existing shareholders will have their ownership diluted because more shares will be created. That means each share will represent a smaller piece of the company. That's why investors often watch these kinds of announcements carefully. What are the risks of this move? The company itself mentions that actual results may differ materially from those expressed. It is also important to note that the price can go down, especially if the company's share price stays the same or goes down. In that case, the company will have to pay back the loan in cash without getting the benefit of an increased share price. Okay, so what's my take on all of this? I think this move shows that FirstEnergy is looking for ways to grow and invest in its business. They see market conditions as being stable enough to bet on it. What should you do to keep an eye on how this offering affects the stock price and whether the company uses the proceeds effectively? If you're considering investing in FirstEnergy, this could be an opportunity, but it's important to understand the risks involved, and overall, this announcement is something to watch. But it's not necessarily a reason to panic. It's just another piece of the puzzle when it comes to understanding FirstEnergy's strategy and future prospects. Alright, that's our breakdown of FirstEnergy's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.